Hi guys, today we're going to read chapter 2 of Jasmine, Toguchi, Mochi Queen by Debbie Michiko Florence. Chapter 2 is entitled My Thinking Spot. This reminds me of Jack. I don't know why. I think maybe he calls something his thinking spot a lot, but as soon as I heard that, I thought of Jack. Cleaning my bedroom is easy. Sophie brags that her bedroom is bigger than mine, but I love my room. It is cozy, and I always finish cleaning my room before Sophie cleans hers. The messiest part of my room is usually my desk. It used to be Dad's desk when he was a boy. Sophie's desk came from a store, but I liked that my desk was special. My dad used to do his homework on the same desk I do my projects on now. I like to make collages. I cut out pretty pictures from Mom's old magazines. Then I glue the pictures onto a piece of cardboard. One time, though, I cut up Mom's magazine before she was finished reading it. Now we have a deal. When she finishes a magazine, she puts it on my desk. I had a whole mess of magazines. I was working on a collage of one of my favorite color, purple. I scooped up the pile of pictures of grapes and plums and flowers and butterflies and a lavender sunset and put them into a big envelope. I stacked the magazines into a neat pile. When I did this, I thought about Mochisuki. I not only needed to convince my parents to let me help, but to let me join the boys too. My mom was all about rules. This was going to be tough. I needed to go to my thinking spot. We lived on what Mom called a quiet street, like that was a good thing. That meant there was no one to play with. My best friend, Linny Green, lived too far for me to walk to see her. Fortunately, Mrs. Reese only lived 2 houses down, and even though she was older than Mom and Dad, she was fun to be around. She listens to me when I talk and doesn't tell me what to do, like elbows off the table or don't make too much noise. She also let me have a special thinking spot in her backyard. I liked going to Mrs. Reese's, especially because Sophie never went there. Mom said as long as I didn't bother Mrs. Reese, I could visit with her. I'm pretty sure I never bothered her. Mrs. Reese was sitting in a rocking chair on her porch like she usually did after lunch. "How are you today, Jasmine?" Mrs. Reese asked, putting her book on her lap. She was always reading. "Your mother says your relatives are coming. You must be excited." Mrs. Reese moved here from Vermont in the summer, so she didn't know about our tradition. She told me it was very cold and snowy there in the winter. Here in Los Angeles, we never get snow, and it mostly stays sunny. "We're getting ready for Mochisuki." Mochisuki. I pronounced it slowly for her because she wasn't Japanese American, like me. I couldn't really speak or understand Japanese, but I knew a few words. She nodded as I sat down on her front steps. "What is that?" "Every year, our relatives come over to make mochi. It's a Japanese dessert. It's good luck to start the new year by eating mochi." I closed my eyes, imagining biting into the chewy treat. My favorite holiday is New Year's, when the whole family gets together. My mom likes Christmas best. I like it fine, especially the presents. Sophie's favorite day is her birthday. "Is it a lot of work to make mochi?" Mrs. Reese asked. "It takes 2 days." 2 whole days? Wow. What do you do? I frowned. Telling Mrs. Reese that I sat and watched TV with my cousins was not interesting. If only I could make mochi. "Dad sets up the backyard with tables and chairs," I said. "Mom and my grandma wash special rice and then soak it overnight. When the rest of the relatives come over the next day, they cook the rice. The men pound the rice into mochi, and the women roll the mochi into little balls." Hang on. I just had to be able to help make mochi. I needed to think of a way to convince my parents. Good thing I had the perfect thinking spot. "I'm going to climb your tree now," I said. Mrs. Reese told me I could climb her apricot tree anytime I wanted. That was my special place. The only rule was that I couldn't fall out of it. In her backyard, I climbed to my favorite spot for thinking, in the crook of the bottom branches. I could lean against the tree trunk and not be afraid of falling. Not that I was afraid. I just didn't want to break Mrs. Reese's rule of not falling out. Most of the leaves were gone by now. I could see my backyard from here. Dad had already set up the canopy to shade the tables. Why did only the men pound mochi? Was it because they were strong? But girls were strong too. Last week, Tommy Frazier, a boy in my 3rd grade class, couldn't open his water bottle and he asked me for help. I opened it for him. If I could show Dad that I was strong, maybe he would let me join the men. There's a special hammer they used to pound mochi. I couldn't practice with it yet because it was still packed in a box. I would just have to use my arm muscles as much as possible before the big day. Then, finally, my muscles would get strong enough to lift the hammer. I wrapped my arms around the tree and hugged it. I had a plan. Now, this, I told you guys the last chapter that I could really connect because my family makes mochi, specifically my grandma and my dad and I. And I can also connect to this because I had a thinking spot when I was little, more so like a reading spot, and it was in our back tree. So I would climb up the tree and I would take some snacks, take some water and my Harry Potter books, and I would go climb up in the tree and just read up there all day. And I still love climbing trees. In fact, during this crazy kind of times where we're locked up right now, me and Hannah went and climbed our front tree the other day. So maybe if you are bored today, you can go climb a tree outside. All right. I can't wait to hear what you think about this chapter, and we'll talk soon. Bye.